Hi, Bahamas. Once again, kind of late coming in, but better late than never. Gonna try to get more in sync with my time. Thank you guys for tuning in, whether you're tuning in now or you're tuning in later. I invite you to share the video. This is another statement concerning Grand Bahama. You know, Grand Bahama is my heart. It's my first love. Maybe it's not my first love, but it's my first love and relative separate from the the question is, you know, till death do we part. This is where it seems as though we've been marrying this political system over and over on Grand Bahama, expecting a loving, caring, building relationship, and we have not gotten it. I want us first to go to the premise of what was promised to us, and we want to remember the current government came into power on the premise of some items that was very important to us as Bahamians. One of those was transparency. The next was accountability. Another was integrity. Another was anti-corruption. And another was freedom of information. Those were very important things for Grand Bahama because we are involved in something on Grand Bahama that can be referred to as the Grand Deception. We've never really gotten the truth of what Grand Bahama it's been about. I can tell you that individuals on New Providence have never been given the truth about the potential of Grand Bahama, except in sound bites during the election time. In 2007, the Right Honorable Louis Alexander Ingram got on the stage and he pronounced and announced how there can be no economic recovery of the Bahamas without Grand Bahama playing a central role. In 2012, the Right Honorable Perry Gladstone Christie also mounted the podium and made the same claims. There can be no economic recovery without Grand Bahama being a central role. In 2017, the Most Honorable Hubert Alexander Minnis got on stage and he made the same promise. There can be no economic recovery without Grand Bahama. Grand Bahama is a multi-billion-dollar accident waiting to happen to the Bahamian economy. Very easily, we could fit the entire population of New Providence in Freeport. Now, Freeport is a city in Grand Bahama. Note what I said, we can fit the entire population of New Providence in Freeport and don't bat an eye as far as impact on the infrastructure. We have the infrastructure in place. We have the land mass available. If you look at all of Grand Bahama, we could easily double or triple New Providence population. And Grand Bahama is essentially an underdeveloped, prepared territory that is, for some reason or other, has not been developed. But one of the reasons is that it's hard for someone to develop something when you don't have the information, which brings us back to what it was promised, transparency. There's certain reports that has been kept away from the Bahamian public. The government of the current administration has a digital ecosystem report that has been locked away for 3 years from Bahamians wanting to enter the digital landscape on Grand Bahama. You know, the blue economy, the green economy, the orange economy, the knowledge economy, the conceptual economy, the digital economy. We have not been able to have access to those blueprints that would be necessary for you if you want to make a decision to move your business to Grand Bahama. For those of you that live on New Providence more specifically, Grand Bahama is a place where for about $20,000 to $40,000 you could get a quarter acre of land with all the infrastructure, cable, telephone, electricity and water are ready to the premises, ready to build. And so, and compare that to a fraction of a quarter of an acre for well over $100,000 in New Providence. We have the airport facilities, we have the harbor, we have everything that you would consider an idyllic situation to build and grow a family. And so the question you have to ask yourself is why has it not happened? And that's a question we've been asking. But going back to this whole transparency and accountability and integrity, the government of the Bahamas also has what is called a McKinsey report that was prepared and paid millions of dollars, was paid for by the previous administration, that gives you some key details that will be necessary for the development of your business on this island, as well as the reasons why the Grand Bahama Port Authority may not be relevant at this particular time, but it's been kept away from the public. There's a number of other reports. I'm not bog you down with the names because we're going to come back and we're going to address those in a later video, asking the government as to why they're keeping these away from Bahamians. I could tell you is that, you know, they go and they solicit foreigners, and those foreigners internationally have access to information about Grand Bahama that they've yet to present to Bahamians. You know, the Grand Bahama Port Authority for years has been claiming that they have been going on these so-called business surveys and investment junkets. So they have this whole information packet that they give to foreigners, but they will not allow Bahamians to have access to. And the Grand Bahama Port Authority within itself has claimed to have a business ecosystem blueprint for people who want to do business in Grand Bahama, but they have never published it. I know they promised me for at least 3 years or longer that they would make it available to me. I've not gotten it today. They on their website, you go to their website, they talk digital, but you as a Bahamian have no access to that information to be able to look to see how you would fit into the Grand Bahama economy. No one on Grand Bahama. Ask the typical Grand Bahamian business person, none of them have access to any of these reports that their tax dollars have paid millions of dollars for preparation of. That could be the McKinsey report, the Tax Hub report, the Digital Grand Bahama report by the government or the Grand Bahama Port Authority. These individuals have done nothing to make it easy for individuals to transition into business. The world has went digital, and so when you begin to talk about these digital economies, and again I go over them again: the green economy, the blue economy, the orange economy, the conceptual economy, the digital economy, as well as the knowledge economy. It's very easy for individuals, as if they want to, just from a personal economic standpoint, to enter into these economic models. And let's say, for instance, a lot of people may think it's unreasonable, unfeasible, but if you have a product or service for where you can, say, get $30 a month, $30 a week from 20 individuals, you could very integrate, go into the Small Business Development Center, get their grant program or whatever program there is, and make $600 a week, which will give you $30,000 a year, which is significantly more than what you would going to a job nowadays. But it requires to have some information. I mean, I have the information from my own personal research and knowledge, but it should be made available to every Bahamian. The Office of the Prime Minister has refused to cooperate with myself as others and make the information available so that you could look at it and learn and begin to prepare. The question is, if you're in New Providence, struggling with rent and everything else, what would you do to come to Grand Bahama and be on a 1/4 acre, fully infrastructure, 2,000, 2,500 square foot house, working from home because of the infrastructure in place, and making $30,000 to $50,000 a year? That's extremely possible. It will not happen through the leadership because they don't know what to do. And because of the oldness of their thinking, when people like me go into the Port Authority or go into the Office of the Prime Minister, because the people that we have sent into those positions have no understanding of the present nor the future for which I speak of. And so it goes into for decision, they go, nope, it ain't gonna happen. Nope, it can't happen. They just can't comprehend it. 99% of the things that I've talked about in the past have all come to fruition exactly as I predicted that they would. And it wasn't more information, it was just basically foreknowledge on the information I have in front of me. But what has to happen is Bahamians on Grand Bahama have to begin to make a demand from their leadership, more so from the members of Parliament on Grand Bahama, to ask them, hey, what can we do to make Grand Bahama better? How do we integrate ourselves in? For 3 years now, we've got nothing but promises. You have not heard anything of significance coming from the government of the Bahamas. Here it is, and this is saying, "Till death do we part." My only assumption is they must have an expectation for us to die fiscally, financially, so that we can part our ways. And so you have to begin to ask them, where's the blueprint that was promised to us that Bahamians, not just Grand Bahamians, but Bahamians themselves, can actually embrace and look forward to the economic development and revitalization of Grand Bahama, so that we can all move to Grand Bahama or do whatever is necessary. Hurricane Dorian has come. We have heard no idea concerning the rebuilding, rebranding, reconstruction, or any re's in Grand Bahama. None of us got a concrete, but we get a sound bites. We're doing this, we're doing that. The Grand Bahama Port Authority, which in my mind, no, legally don't exist because of so many different variations. We're going to have a conversation on that. And so it really does not exist except in the minds of the indoctrinated. And so, because the question we have to begin to ask ourselves, what purpose does the Grand Bahama Port Authority serve for Grand Bahama? The Grand Bahama Port Authority have not had any meetings with anyone anywhere on this island, whether it be for licensees or for people interested in becoming licensees, or for Bahamians that's affected by the amount of control that they exercise over the economy. The question is, why in over a decade the Grand Bahama Port Authority, more than a decade, have not come to the Bahamian people and begin to hear them, begin to listen to them, and begin to become involved in the governance of the community? Because they just don't care. Because they don't feel that there's a need for them to be accountable to us or to government, and government participates in it. You know, we have a question that's still on the table. Where's the 7.5% ownership of the Grand Bahama Port Authority that is owned by the Bahamian people? Going back to 2007, the junior minister of finance and others promised that they would let us know. And the last administration said the same thing. Where's our 7.5%? Does the McKinsey report answer that question? No one seems to want to deal with it. And I don't know, for Grand Bahamians, unless we begin to speak up, we will continue to get what we've been getting, because our silence is the consent for what they're doing to us. Business people, think about it. You are now on life and debt as far as the business infrastructure is concerned, and no one has come yet to tell you, how does your business integrate? How will your business survive in any new economic models that they say they have? You know, you have the Grand Bahama Port Authority hijacking international aid programs and trying to wrap up himself around it and market it as though it was theirs. Look at the endemic failure of the Grand Bahama. We don't have a functioning airport, which was the benefits for which they got the millions of dollars, the tens of hundreds of millions of dollars a year in tax concession. We don't have any functioning hospitals or clinic. We're still talking about the RAN Memorial Clinic as if though it's a hospital. That hospital was built 50 years ago. It was a clinic. It is still a clinic, no matter what type of name you put on it. We don't have a functioning fire station. Yes, we have a new fire station, but how do you invite industry? How do you invite technology with a fire station that doesn't meet the demands or the needs of somebody that's going to bring tens of millions of dollars of equipment to Grand Bahama that needs protection? How do you tell individuals to come and build second homes for millions of dollars that you can't protect? Because you don't have a proper fire suppression, firefighting strategy for the island. There is none. The government had to go and build the fire station when it's the responsibility of the Port Authority. Where's the adequate education system that comes as part of the obligation of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement that we have? We have two schools in Grand Bahama high schools and junior high school that was built by government, not by the Grand Bahama Port Authority. The Grand Bahama Port Authority, in its purest sense, serves no purpose. I don't care what anyone says, it serves no purpose. I challenge the Grand Bahama Port Authority principals to come to us and tell us what the purpose the Grand Bahama Port Authority serves. Don't hide behind this jacked up document called the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, because it fell apart when you begin to sell the assets of it going away. Where is the testicular fortitude or rare audacity in our leadership, on our MPs on Grand Bahama, who would come to us and begin to advocate for us in the office of the Prime Minister and to the Grand Bahama Port Authority to ask them, where is the blueprint for our recovery? Where's the blueprint for our rebuilding? You have thousands of Bahamians that are facing a crisis of finance. We are facing a crisis of finance. There's no jobs. There's no hope. It's seemingly for revitalization of the economy, for business people to reinitiate their companies. Like who will they sell to? Where's the jobs? Where's the MSMEs, the micro, small, and medium enterprises that should be being built on this island, considering the preparedness that they said was here? Where is you have homes that are practically becoming rotting in place because the homeowners don't have the revenue from jobs or from businesses to build and sustain it. We have a crisis of housing that's about to approach, and no one is talking about an affordable housing regime for individuals to be able to sustain their family in that particular environment. We're not having the conversations of development on the island. What we have of personalities, what we're having is identity politics, where you have individuals that are claiming to be from this gang or from that gang, and and you begin to hate this gang, and you have no purpose for why you hate them. You can't explain to them. You're against them. But at the same time, you're missing the point of personal accountability and the development of your own personal economy. It's not happening because Grand Bahama leadership, whether it comes from government, current or previous, or from the Grand Bahama Port Authority, does not exist. We're going to have to come together, Bahamians, and take control of our governance and begin to hold the Grand Bahama Port Authority accountable and begin to hold the government accountable. We may have to call our own town meeting and invite them to attend, and whether they attend or not, we will begin to have the conversation on the way forward for Grand Bahama. I believe that the intellectual capital necessary for the development of Grand Bahama resides right here on Grand Bahama. We need nothing but the proper legislation to do many of the things that I speak of. The digital Grand Bahama, access to capital, redefining the tourism product. A survey done in 2017, 16 or 17, showed that the tourism product on Grand Bahama to be viable need at least 7,000 to 10,000 rooms on this island. We are nowhere near that. So building a hotel does nothing for the development of Grand Bahama, because we would not have the critical mass that is necessary for someone to open a business, a restaurant, or a tour for them to be able to pay salaries, insurance, and maintain their business. So how do we develop the 7,000 rooms? I have ideas for that, utilizing the technological aspect of it, as well as the new tourism product that COVID even more so makes available to us as Bahamians. And so we can't integrate ourselves into this economy. Remember, on the stage, the Free National Movement promised us an ecotourism jurisdiction or district in East Grand Bahama. Well, the oil has impacted that. We have not heard anything about that. But they promised us ecotourism in East Grand Bahama. They promised us industry and technology in the central part of Grand Bahama. Well, we have not seen any of that. They promised us cultural and heritage tourism in West Grand Bahama. We have not seen that. I mean, you could go and verify their manifesto and the postings on Facebook and see these are promises made. Promises made. Were these comfort to fools? Because apparently you have no intention. We have not seen any measurable action that taken us towards what it is that fulfilling the promises that you made. But if we begin to just look at the tourism product, begin to look at the affordable housing regime, we could easily see between 20 and 30,000 units will be needed on this island. If we begin to look at building out for the tourism product, we could very easily see 50,000 housing units, whether it be housing or apartments or hotel rooms, whatever, is needed on this island to make it viable. And Grand Bahama is ideal for the new dispensation of global economics that is happening in the world, where Bahamians come to Grand Bahama. I had a statement here that basically has went out into the digital world, and where it's considered Grand Bahama Reimagined, and it's .com, and it says that Grand Bahama is a place we can live, work, play, visit, explore, invest, dine, and shop. And I can tell you unequivocally, if we were to look at putting about 5,000 or 10,000 individuals in each of the economic models, you put 5,000 individuals in the blue economy, very easily to be done. Because the blue economy is not, in any of these 6 economies, it's not just a singular economy. What it is, there is sectors under each of these and spin-offs. And so when you start talking about putting 10,000 people in the blue economy, 10,000 people in the green economy, 10,000 people in the orange economy, 10,000 people in the digital economy, 10,000 people in the knowledge economy, 10,000 people in the conceptual economy, and then you have these subsectors. And so, and even under those sectors themselves, like let's use tourism as an example. Tourism is now in the blue economy, in the orange economy, in the green economy, in the digital economy, the conceptual economy. Tourism, the new tourism model, actually bridges all 6 of those different economic models. And so when you begin to look at the potential of that alone, and then when you go under tourism, you have what is called a whole subsectors under each of them. We hear people talk about sports tourism, medical tourism, retirement tourism, rehabilitation, digital tourism, sports tourism, in the blue economy, from fishing to this and that, ecotourism. I mean, begin to look at the tourism sector alone, you can see you could get way more than the 10,000 individuals in that alone. And so when you go to another industry type under each one of these sectors and understand what each one is and how does they integrate and interlock with each other from a global standpoint, and how it is that we live in the Bahamas, work in the Bahamas, play in the Bahamas. And see, the beauty about these 6 economic models is they do not need to be in the Bahamas. You hear Donald Trump talking about eliminating almost 500,000 visas. All of those individuals work in one of these economies, most of them remotely, even though they are in the United States. And the reason they're in the United States is because of the sector. The infrastructure that allows them to work in the sector. Well, the Bahamas can very easily duplicate the very sectors that I'm speaking of. And so there is no problem in developing Grand Bahama, because if you have a family making $20,000, $30,000, you can very easily look at what a home would cost in Grand Bahama. You could get a home for the price of land in New Providence. So it makes more sense for them to work and go to school and do education here than it is to remain on New Providence in the congested, whatever type environment. We just need to have a directed conversation of the potential of Grand Bahama. Clearly, our leadership in the Port Authority and in government for the last decade or 2 decades actually have no idea of what Grand Bahama is and its potential, or they have deliberately kept us in this condition. I prefer for them to complete ignorance than deliberate intent to oppress and squeeze us out. And I do believe that the Port Authority and Hutchison Whampoa do have a strategy of simply saying, if we can't buy them out, let's starve them out. And so I see in a strategy, at least for the last 15 years, of starving the people out of Grand Bahama. And the Port Authority gets to do this because we don't hold them responsible for the development of Grand Bahama or for paying the taxes that is called for under the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. We let them get away of not establishing the municipal government as called for under the agreement. But when individuals like me speak, They have so many of us pulled into this identity politics where they say he's a PLP. You know, if I talk to FNMs, they say, don't listen to him. If I talk to FNMs, don't listen to him. He's a PLP. If I talk to PLPs, they say he's an FNM, or don't listen to him, he talks too much. You know, but one of the things you will recognize from the leadership of the country, so many people have said things about government, said things with the Port Authority, and they run to the press with their press release. I challenge the government of the Bahamas and the Grand Bahama Port Authority to say the things that I've been saying about being able to develop the country, or more so Grand Bahama, cannot happen. And you ask, well, why Sea Island? Why don't you do it? Yeah, well, I am doing it, and I can do it by going through some ringamerangs. But business doesn't require you to set up gateways around roadblocks. It's supposed to be a straightforward path in the 21st century. You know, for you to get into the business of the digital economy, why do I have to take you and digitally take you to America, register you as a company, get you a tax identification number, and set up all of these different things just for you to exist? And so the gymnastics of you just entering a business should not happen. Many of the things that I speak of also requires some legal infrastructure to be put in place to protect you as well as the individuals who you will be involved with, whether it be in business or in these industries. But we have not had those. And yes, why? Because they will tear down the systems that is maintained by the oligarchs and the plutocrats. In the digital economy, the orange, blue, green, conceptual, and knowledge economy, answer to the cage that has been, the economic cage that has been built around you. So they're trying to force us back into the plantation economics of what we had, because they themselves are not prepared for the 21st century. And so when you begin to look at stores, right, you know, I know you have a lot of people, you're going to have a lot of people who believe they're going to open up stores again. And this is the problem we're going to even have in the economics of Grand Bahama and the Bahamas. Because where government used to make money from what is called churning, where you made your money and somebody bought the goods and service and put it in their store and happen, get ordered directly, go down to customs or to the shipper and pay VAT one time. No longer is it paid multiple times on a product. No longer is VAT paid multiple times on a product as it circulates through the economy. You pay one time. So government revenues reduce. So government needs to come up with a new strategy, but instead what we do is we continuously borrow money on the backs of our children for generations. We borrow money with no strategy on how that money we borrow will make money to pay back that money. We borrow money to pay bills. It will not work, especially now as we begin to accelerate. And so what we have to do is we have to begin to ask the leadership of our government that if they don't know what to do, to step aside. You, and I'm talking to many of you, is going to be facing an imminent crisis in a matter of months for the mere fact that your job, if it exists, is barely holding on. And if you don't have a job, the odds of you really coming back to have a job is going to be slim to none. And so we have to basically adopt new models or we will perish. And so I am asking you to join me in calling for your members of parliament. We have 5 of them, and we have 2 senators here, and 3 actually when you count Dr. Davil, to please, we need to come together and begin to have a conversation with us. We also need to demand from the PLP, the DNA, and any other political party that comes up, that they must come and have a conversation with us instead of talking to us or about us. Let us test you in your understanding of what we are facing as an island. Let us understand what you're going to do for us as an island, and then as how does what you claim you will do for Grand Bahama fits into a broader picture of what you claim you'll do for the Bahamas. We can't just sit and allow them to promise, instead of convincing us that they are ready to become government, we have them simply wait to be government. They're waiting to be government rather than being government and waiting. We have to demand more from our leadership. When the Progressive Liberal Party and any other party puts their candidates out, I think the Kingdom Government Movement will put their candidates out. They need to come to us and explain to us, what is it you're going to do? We don't want to hear sound bites. So many people could go to Google and get to what needs to be done. But it's the hows that we need to understand. How will you do it? How does what you say fit into the reality of what we have as an island? How does it fit into the reality of the laws of what you say? Oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to do whatever. Those are very easy to say. We need to stop falling for that type of conversation. We are now fighting for another generation of people. We now have 5 generations of individuals in the Bahamas. We have the boomers 2, the millennials, Gen Z, and the alpha generation. But we still have the boomers running the country. People in their 60s where technology confounds them in a technological world. What we have is a 21st century Bahamas run by 20th century leaders using 19th century concept. Let me repeat that. We have a 21st century Bahamas being run by 20th century leaders using 19th century concepts. This is no longer viable. Grand Bahama truly is the savior of the economy. Just the mere build out of the 6 economies that is mentioned will bring enough stimulus to the Bahamian economy to get people working. Combine the Grand Bahama with the other G, which is Great Abaco, and we can see a revolution of the economics to replace that which has died on New Providence. We could begin to talk about new energy solutions. We could talk about new grand transportation. We could talk about smart communities. We could talk about smart cities. We could talk about a smart island to eventually integrate into a smart country. We could talk about technologically enhanced environment. We could very easily capitalize on the $55 million that's available in the SBDC to start small businesses with $5,000 and $10,000 each, because these are individuals working at home. We could very easily finance 25,000 homes on Grand Bahama with what is called a net zero mortgage, meaning that essentially before your house is even built, you have a strategy to generate multiple the income of your property than what your mortgage would cost. So essentially you're living in your home free, paying your mortgage and putting money in your pocket. Yes, that's possible. And we're going to talk about that. I'm working right now with an individual who will be coming to you in the shortest period of time, a contractor with experience even in getting goods and services to the island as a wholesaler. And we're gonna be talking about hope. Home ownership promotes empowerment. We're going to talk about affordable housing for families. But the most important thing that we need is we have to talk about ownership. And no, we're not talking about JOBS, just overbroke suckers in a just overbroke system. It's time as we're going to be rebuild the tourism economy or whatever economy you're going to build on Grand Bahama. It has to be one of ownership. And it's time for us to build some new millionaires on this island. And home ownership is one of the most powerful tools. When you start talking about redesigning the tourism that we want on the island, many of us in this new tourism model, many of us will have the opportunities to own homes. Some of us will have the opportunities to own restaurants or tours or events or whatever activities, because the variety is so much that it'll blow us away. And so what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, is just join the conversation in making the demand. Support me in my demand of the government and the Port Authority to bring us the blueprint for the economic rebuilding and revitalization of the Grand Bahama economy that 3 prime ministers and former prime ministers said was key to the economic revitalization and renaissance of the Bahamian economy. It's going to happen. There's going to be a small group of us that's going to be attempting to have this conversation on the whole concept of Grand Bahama reimagined. But it requires us as a community to come together to make the demand for it to actually work, because you have to be a participant in it. If you have a desire for home ownership, if you have a desire for owning a bed and breakfast, if you have a desire for owning a digital business, if you have a desire for leaving a legacy for your children and your children's children, the Bible says a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Well, never in another 100, this is a 100-year event. COVID provides us with a 100-year event. This will never happen again, where you have a global economic reset, where you just need to find your way in it. And individuals like me, who have been preparing for the circumstances that way we are today, is willing to lead the way. No charge. Just, I want to carry as many people with me into the promised land. We need a new social contract with the Bahamian people, with our government. But it requires us to put down the colors and begin to have a conversation of what it means to be Bahamians. The black, the aquamarine, and gold. Not the red, the yellow, the green, the purple, or whatever other color comes up. Please join me. My WhatsApp number is 242-443-7189. I have a company that is being launched, Sand Dollar Business Solutions, Sand Dollar Communications. And what we're going to do is, for those of you who want to enter the blue economy, the green economy, the orange economy, the knowledge economy, the conceptual economy, or the digital economy, even if you don't know what they are, I invite you to call me or WhatsApp me at 825-9300. The WhatsApp for that is 825-9300. If you're in New Providence, a direct dial is 698-9300. If you're in Grand Bahama, 688-9300. The two WhatsApp number is 825-9300 for the business, 443-7189. Have a conversation. I'm willing to come and talk. I'm willing to come and talk to the churches, to youth organizations, to churches, youth organizations, to community organizations, or even to small groups, to find out what is it that you can do. What is it that you can do to tap into the $55 million that has been set aside for development of small businesses, micro, small, and medium businesses. The money is there. It's just yours for the asking. There's some grants available up to $5,000 is my understanding. And most of you who want to start a home-based business, $5,000 may be sufficient for you to get involved. For those of you that wants to go into a little larger business, I will represent you on the intellectual property aspect of that, to make sure that you don't necessarily need money if you possess the intellectual capital that can be quantified and qualified as you go into a business. And we will have a conversation on that. And so don't want to keep running on with this thing right here, but please, let's call the office of the Prime Minister and ask them, where's the McKinsey report? Where's the digital report? In fact, Minister Kwesi Thompson promised that he was going to publish it within 2 weeks. It's now 3 or 4 weeks later, and it hasn't been published yet. The Grand Bahama Port Authority said they was going to put it up on their website. It's not there. Either they have a plan and a blueprint to proceed and go forward, or they don't. Let's just talk about it, show it. And if the Grand Bahama Port Authority or the Office of Prime Minister don't, then we will just hold them accountable. We're going to remember them. Time is short as far as the development of Grand Bahama. And so simply put, but in the meantime, I'm going to be inviting individuals to sit at the table, because we're not going to go and sit at their table. We're going to build our own table and invite them to sit with us. And that conversation is coming up. And as I begin to speak daily, I'm going to become more compact in my conversation on items and answer questions and deal with one issue at a time as we're going forward. But my biggest concern right now is the promises made. Transparency, accountability, integrity, anti-corruption, and freedom of information. We haven't gotten any. Ecotourism, East Grand Bahama, digital and industry in Central, culture and heritage in West Grand Bahama. We have not gotten it. We've been promised an economic revitalization plan since Dorian, we have not gotten it. We even need it more so now since COVID. And so we have to begin to not allow them to continue to give us sound bites and make demand for more. And join me. I don't care whether it has to be a survey, whatever it is, but we're going to find a means that we're going to come together as a hive, and we're going to design the way forward for Grand Bahama with the information we have. And the reason why we need that information, the government is saying send them ideas. How do you ask people in the blind to send you information when you refuse to provide them with information so they can get a complete, comprehensive understanding for the environment for which they will be making recommendation? So it's just a farce. It's more of the grand deception. And we're going to talk about the grand deception. And for you business people whose businesses depends on the economic revitalization and viability, you specifically have to stand up and speak. It's your business that's going to die as a result of people not working and having the money to patronize you. How do you buy fast food? How do you buy your services? How do you buy anything if no one on the islands is working? So please join me. If you want to get all of my social media contacts, it's allencjohnson.com. Will take you to all of them. ALLENCJOHNSON. allencjohnson.com will give you access to all of my contacts, including my WhatsApp. Thank you so much for joining me. And hopefully, as I continue the conversation, I have so much on my mind, so much to share. My messages will become clearer and more compact as I move towards the singularity of items that we need to address going forward on this island, such as roof repairs, such as dry-in, such as education, such as jobs, such as business development, such as infrastructure, such as community development for many of you who can't find your community management team to pave the roads and cut the verges and everything else. It's time for us to take back our island and our country. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to our continued conversation. Please go to allencjohnson.com and let's begin a conversation, and let me explain to you with 40 years of technological experience and preparation for a day such as this have me. I am here to provide it to you as an individual or as a group free of charge. Thank you once again.